Hey everyone! Today I have a project that I am really excited to share with you guys because it is designed by me. So what I'm showing you today is a tutorial to build my Chevron coffee table with or without drawers. So I've split this video up into two parts so that if you don't want to do the drawers, you can just continue on to the end. And if you do want to tackle the drawers, that will be covered in a separate video so that you can just switch over. I hope that that is easier for a lot of you and takes away some of the frustration of watching parts of a tutorial that you don't really want to do, but we'll see how that goes. Also, just a note, I will have the free printable plans over on my blog for you guys, so I will leave that link to my blog in the description for you guys to check out if you'd like those. If you guys do like this table, if you like this tutorial, please click the thumbs up just below the video. And please subscribe to my channel so that you can keep up with the rest of my videos. I might have a lot more that you'd be interested in. So now that I've said all that, let's get into the tutorial. To begin the chevron top, you're going to need to take the piece of plywood that you cut to size and place each one of the pieces you cut to make up your chevron top in position where you'd like them to be. This will help you lay out how you want your chevron pattern to look, and if you have pieces that have more character like I do, then this is going to be more important. Next, we want to prepare these pieces for staining. Before you gather them up, just make sure that you've numbered the back of each one of your pieces so you can more easily position them back in their proper place when we start to attach them to our piece of plywood. Now you need to lightly sand the surface of each one of your chevron pieces to prepare it for staining. I've laid mine out in the position they will be attached to my tabletop, but this is only important if you're not staining your entire top the same color. Once you finish sanding each one of your pieces, you want to get rid of any of the sawdust that was created from sanding and any other debris that might be on your pieces. And the best way to do that is using a tack cloth. Once you've wiped each piece with your tack cloth and you no longer feel any grittiness on your wood, it's time to get staining. For this, you'll use a stain in the color of your choice and a clean rag to rub the stain into the wood. Of course, you can stain your entire tabletop all one color if you like, or you can do different colors as I have done here. And if you're interested in the mixture I used for my stain colors, then I'll leave that mixture recipe over on my blog, and I'll leave that linked in the description for you guys. So now I've got all of my pieces stained, and you're also going to need to stain the 4 pieces that will make up the frame of the tabletop. Next, figure out where the center of your plywood piece is by dividing the width in half and drawing a line straight down the center. Now you'll need a scrap piece of wood or something that has a straight edge and is long enough to reach the entire length of your plywood piece, and you're going to clamp that piece in place along that center line. This piece of wood will be used as an edge to line up each one of your chevron pieces perfectly. To save time, I've completed the first side on my own, and now I'll show you exactly what I did on the other side. You can also now unclamp and remove this scrap piece of wood. The first thing you'll want to do is position your first full piece of wood so that it's exactly mirroring the other side, creating your first chevron section. So you'll just clamp this piece in place, making sure to use a scrap piece of wood over top of it to protect that piece of wood. And now go ahead and position the rest of your chevron pieces in place to make sure everything fits. And now, with your one board clamped in place, you can mark and cut the top 2 pieces you haven't done yet to fit perfectly in place. And you can also do the same to the other 2 pieces on the opposite end that we haven't cut yet. And now, with all of your pieces cut and that one board still clamped in place, you can start at that end applying glue to the back side of each one of your chevron pieces and using a brad nailer to fix those in place. Once you've got those 2 boards above your clamped piece attached to your plywood, you can remove the clamps and continue gluing and nailing the rest of your pieces all the way down to the other end. Now, working on one edge at a time, you want to apply wood glue to each edge, position your frame piece perfectly in place, and attach it to your tabletop using your brad nailer. You can also use a traditional hammer and nails to attach this if you don't have a brad nailer. It'll just take you a little bit more time, and you'll have to be careful not to strike your wood with your hammer. For the next steps, we're going to need to flip our tabletop over. So you want to attach some cardboard to your good side to protect it from getting scratched or marred or dented. This next part is for anybody who will be tackling drawers in their table, as I did. And if you're not, skip to the portion of the video that I have indicated right here on the screen. For this part, you have a front and a back side of your table. You're going to be working with the front side, where we will be cutting the drawer holes. So you'll just want to draw your lines for the frame of your drawers so that you know where to cut your drawer holes. So you'll want to use a drill bit that is large enough for your jigsaw blade to fit into, so that you're able to get your jigsaw into the wood so you can cut those holes. Drill one hole at each corner for each drawer. Once you've got your holes drilled, you can now use your jigsaw to cut your drawer holes. As you can see in the video, I've set up a bit of a jig that lines up against the foot of my jigsaw, and that will keep my lines exactly where I need them and perfectly straight all the way along. Now we need to prepare the inner parts of our frame. So these are the pieces that will be holding our back piece to our front piece and will help make our frame really strong. You'll just need to drill 2 pocket holes on both ends of each one of these pieces, and I'm going to use my handy pocket hole jig to do this. This little tool has been amazing for doing this entire project, and I know it's going to come in super handy for so many other of the projects I have planned for the future. Now, before we begin putting any of these pieces together, this is a good time to sand the front piece of your table if you've decided to add drawers. If not, you can do all the sanding before staining or painting it. Now we need to attach our inner frame pieces that will connect our front piece to our back piece. And to do this, we need to clamp these pieces in place. The only way to do that is if you have a special clamp, which I do not have, but there's an easy way to do it, and that's by adding an extra block of wood clamped to the side of your frame piece, and then using that piece of wood as a way to clamp your frame piece to the front of your table. And make sure that your pocket holes are facing outwards for these outer frame pieces. And also make sure to line up these top inner frame pieces into the corner and the top edge of this front piece. And the frame piece that will be in the center lined up along the top edge as well. Once you've got all 6 of these inner frame pieces attached to your front face, you can then line up and clamp each one of these pieces to your back piece and screw it in place. Next, take the frame that you've built so far and place it in position under your tabletop. So you'll need your tabletop to be upside down for this. At this point, you'll just want to do a dry fitting to make sure that all of your pieces are going to fit in place. If things are too snug, then you'll just do a little bit of sanding until everything fits nicely together. Once it does, it's time to drill holes to attach the legs. So to do that, remove all of your loose pieces, and you're going to use an extra piece of wood lined up along the edge and corner of the bottom side of your frame, and you're going to clamp that in place to allow for a wide enough surface for your pocket hole jig to rest on. Clamp your pocket hole jig in place and drill 1 pocket hole for each corner of your frame. Once you've got those 4 holes drilled, you're just going to flip over your frame and do the same thing on this side to all 4 corners. Now reposition your frame underneath your tabletop, clamp the table legs in place, and screw them to the frame using a pocket hole screw in each one of those holes we just drilled on the bottom and the top. Now you'll need to drill some pocket holes into the bottoms and tops of each one of your side pieces the same way we did to the front and back pieces. So just clamp your extra piece of wood to help stabilize your pocket hole jig and then clamp your pocket hole jig in place and drill one hole on each end, top and bottom, to each one of your sides. Now add your side pieces, clamp them in place the same way we did with the front and back pieces, and screw them in place using your pocket hole screws. To make the bottom shelf is really simple. All I did was cut 3 boards to the proper length and then attach them together using pocket holes, wood glue, and pocket hole screws. Now this is a part that can be optional. If you don't want the bottom shelf, then you don't have to do this part, but I did want a little bit of extra storage. Now the other part you don't see me doing here is placing the shelf on the ground and putting my table on top to trace around the legs. So that way I know exactly where to cut using my jigsaw, and this step that you see me doing here. Now you'll need to sand the shelf, since it will be way too hard to sand when it's attached, and then sand the entire rest of your table frame to prepare it for staining or painting or however you want to treat it. So now here's all of my pieces, and as you can see, I've chosen to do some painting and some staining to go along with our modern farmhouse decor. Now if you choose not to do drawers, your pieces might look like this, or without a shelf like this, or maybe you've decided to go with the option of doing drawers and no shelf, but you get the picture. And so now it's time for assembly. This is the exciting part where your table comes together. So first, you want to take your tabletop and place it upside down. Make sure you know which side is front and which side is back. As you can see here, I've labeled mine F for front and B for back. Then you'll take your table frame and position it upside down on top of your tabletop. Place 4 brackets along the back side where your tabletop and frame meet, spaced out evenly, and then use a pencil to trace all the holes onto your tabletop and the back side of your frame. And you'll also do the same thing with 4 brackets on the opposite side of your table as well. Next, put your table frame aside and drill some small, shallow pilot holes in the center of each one of those circles you traced. Now position your frame back on the underside of your tabletop, reposition your brackets, and screw them in place using your small screws. And also just a quick note on what not to do. Just be careful whenever you're screwing your screws into your tabletop of where your drill is rubbing, because as you can see here, my drill rubbed up against the painted part of my frame and it left a little marred marks, which is not ideal. Another option would be to just use a manual screwdriver to screw these screws in. And now you have something that functions as a table, but we still have to attach the shelf. With the shelf in place, prop it up using some blocks of wood at each corner that you know were the exact same height. Then on each one of the legs, I put an L bracket in place underneath and more towards the back part of the leg so that it won't be quite as visible once it's attached. And I just use my fingers to feel for the holes and trace the circles using my pencil. Now you just need to drill the pilot holes that you just drew on your table legs and the underside of your shelf. Then with your table upside down, once again, you're going to slide your shelf in place on your legs, and you're going to screw your L brackets to each leg. Next, use some sort of a spacer to prop your shelf up in place. I'm using a stack of these plastic disposable shot glasses I got at the dollar store under each corner. And now you're going to screw those L brackets to the bottom of your shelf. And then, just as an optional step, I decided to paint those screw heads with the same paint that I used on my table, just so that they'd be a little bit more hidden under there. And now your coffee table is fully assembled. You've made your very own Chevron coffee table. It's so awesome. That's something to be proud of. And now it's ready to use. So that's it for the tutorial, guys. As I said, I really hope you enjoy my design and that you will try to make one yourselves. I also mentioned that if you want to do the drawers, check out the video for that, and I will have that linked up in the cards for you guys to easily access, and I'll also put it in the description for you guys. If you want, you can come find me over on social media, and I will also have those links in the description for you guys, along with the link to my blog. I really would love to see a lot of you guys there. I hope that you guys all have a super awesome day, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!